We are on. I hope you all got your popcorn. Can you hear me? All right. And we are on. I hope you all got your popcorn. I'm just waiting for a signal that you can hear me. Court is now in session. With me, Judge Desire for Knowledge, your TV host on Know Your Truth Real Talk. How you guys doing out there? Happy Saturday. Welcome. All that are here, thank you for showing up. Those that show up later, thank you for checking in. Thank you for tuning in as well on IAAH Radio Plus. Thank you there as well. I hope you enjoy this session, this episode, this hot topic out here. Warning, warning, warning for the weak-hearted. Please don't take everything that's on this show seriously. It is just to help empower you. Basically, like I stated in many of my videos, I'm here to help those that I've seen on, actually at my workplace, bringing your relationships there, because that's what that place is about. So when you take it to the court, we all know your business. So basically, and sometimes it's forced into court. So unfortunately, but you know, I come and bring the experiences of those, personal experiences from others, my work experience, like I said, which I just stated, and things I've seen and outside of that. Sometimes my own experiences so that I can help teach and empower other people, women, even guys, because I've seen things done to them and vice versa. So that's what this show is about. So I hope you enjoy this one this week. Go check my last week's show. It was about the guys, so it was pretty cool. This week is about both partners, the female and the male, marriage and dating. Warning, warning. So with that being said, those of you in partnerships or relationships or whatever you want to call it, this show's for you. Thank you for joining me. I'm Judge Desire for Knowledge. Please like, share, and subscribe. And if you're tuning in on IAAH Radio Plus, please check me out next week as well. So we're going to start this off now because it's pretty lengthy this time. I try not to do too long of a show because people don't like long, drawn-out shows. So I've realized that, and I myself don't. So I try to make it as small as possible, as short as possible. Yes. Okay, thank you. Thanks for the confirmation out there. So please like, subscribe, and share. So you know I have my, basically I'll do monthly or whenever it comes to me, I'll do a show on family matters, games people play, and these are repeat episodes of different topics. So if you like on family matters or games people play, which comes with several topics, go check them out. I have a few videos uploaded there. So this episode on family matters on Know Your Truth Real Talk, the topic here is it takes two to tango, marriage versus dating, and who's really stepping on toes. All right, because you know when we in relationships and partnerships, we're dating or we're married, it's totally different for each. So I'm going to try to show you a visualization mentally of how the differences are. So let's talk about blame. Because in relationships, everybody's innocent, right? According to themselves, of course. Well, it takes two to tango, but somehow when the music stops, only one person claims they were dancing. So that's like the blame game. We know, we've seen it. We've all been there before. If you haven't, please, you don't need to mention that. We're grateful that you haven't. But in reality, in real life, most of us have had that if we've had relationships, okay? Or marriages. And only one person always claims that they're the one dancing. So what I mean by that is men and women blame differently. The psychology behind it is definitely different, and the outcome, same, dysfunctional. All right, and dating, people are usually on the best behavior, right or wrong. Yeah, they're on their best behavior, so you never get to know anything or anyone if you're in a brief dating period or a long one, and sometimes at all until it's over, right? In marriage, you get the behind the scenes footage, okay? So there's a big difference when you come to marriage versus the dating game. In dating, blame is risky. You might lose them, all right? But in a marriage, blame gets comfortable because where they going to go? All right, where they going to go? They can't go nowhere right now. Not right away. Eventually, possibly. But right now, no. Where they going to go? So I'm going to start my part one here with a dating blame dynamics, I meant to say. And those dynamics in dating is how dating is fragile. So blame is often, indirect and strategic. So that is something that you all will know if you have been dating, those that date. So we're going to start with the soft game. Instead of you not making time for other people, you get someone that says, I just feel like maybe we're not aligned. When someone comes out, this is the way the game is played with some people. Instead of you don't make me time for me and telling the truth, you get something like, oh, I just feel like maybe we're not aligned, and that might be true or not, but the translation on this is I'm blaming you, but I'm trying not to scare you off at the same time. And that's a lot of stuff done in games, in dating, that we see in blame games. And the ghost and blame games are totally different. I'm gonna bring that out right now. Somebody disappears, that's the ghost. That's the ghost game. And the blame here is then comes back with you with an attitude of, oh, you deserve better, I just wasn't ready, and blaza blaza. Is that not true? You ghost someone and then you come back playing the game, oh, and we got to see what's behind that ghosting, going away and then coming back. Why come back? No. Then you're going to come back with, you deserve better, I wasn't ready that time, I'm ready now. And the same thing plays over and over again for some people. And some people, it may just go off and end up being the greatest. But the truth here is that's not accountability. That's just an exit. So be very careful of the dating game with exits like that, because the real translation here is, I did what I wanted and now I'm dressing it up nicely. They come back, they're in and out. These are the people that play games. They're not just dating you. They're dating a lot of other people behind the scenes. And instead of being a mature adult about it, they play the little girl or little boy syndrome where I'm not going to tell this person, they don't need to know, it's none of their business. We understand that. But if you were a grown, mature person, you wouldn't have to go there. If you have it going on, you wouldn't have to play games, because you'll say, hey, you know what? It's not. I'm out there. I'm selling myself. You might as well say that when you're out there all the time. Or I'm selling my brand. Whichever way you want to say it, but don't be a liar. The performance mode in dating, I'm gonna bring that now, because this is a mode when people tolerate more. That's horrible when we tolerate people like this, and when we ignore the red signs, the red flags. I'm sorry, the signs and the red flags, I should say. Avoid conflict. Why do we avoid conflict? See, that's the thing. It's not conflict. It's basically explaining one another so that we can see how we can get through it. But other people consider that conflict, so they'll just lie about it so that they won't get into, not only won't be accountable, but they don't like the conflict itself. But it's really resolving, is what I should say, that should be taking place, and not conflict. And if you don't resolve it, and it becomes conflict, or the conflict gets resolved, at least you did something, instead of someone finding out later that this was not what they wanted out of life. Everybody have a choice to make their own decision if they want to be with someone or leave someone. They shouldn't be forced or bullied into staying because you're a liar or manipulator, or that person is, and you're sitting there having them wait on you. It's not fair, because accountability might cost you the whole relationship. All right. So a real life example is, like, for instance, they cancel plans 3 times or more. You say, no worries, right? That's in dating. In a marriage, the same behavior becomes World War III. You can't do that in a marriage. So this is why people take steps on, first, of course, everyone dates before marriage. It's very important so that you can know the person. But this show is about marriage versus dating. And the difference is when people are going through the same situations that people that are dating do, the married couples go through that as well sometimes as well. But that with that person instead of with several people like dating usually is. Some people aren't monogamous, so let's get it real. They're out there with a lot of people, so that's why I stated that way. But here's how the blame exit strategy is. In dating, blame is often used to justify leaving, which I just stated. With scenarios of, oh, it's just not working, we weren't aligned, we're too different. Sometimes sometimes this is true, but sometimes just easier than it's easier than saying, for that person it's easier than saying I don't want this anymore. And I'm not sure why that would be. Sorry about that. I got a message, which is why I turned my phone on vibrate. Okay, so sometimes these things are true, that it's not working, we're too different, we're not aligned. But sometimes it's just easier for someone to say I don't want this anymore. You know, that's hard for some people. They're not direct. They're not going to show you what the truth. They're not going to say the truth. I guess it's hard for some people to tell truth, and lies is easier. I'm not sure if they need to grow up more, go take a class. I don't know. Maybe that's their personality, their character. But for me, maturity is much more better when you're dealing with mature people that can tell you what they feel, say it like it is, and just be done with it instead of, you know, stringing you along for so long. And you know what? You can be stringing a marriage the same way. So this is why I brought this subject up, because in certain marriages, not those real deal ones, but a lot of them are no different from dating in similarities. The only thing is, one is you can't really go nowhere at that time, and in dating you can. So I'm going to show you the marriage blame dynamics now, because we just did the dating and how it versus how it was not almost but not clearly similar to marriages. So we're going to talk about the marriage blame dynamics now, where marriage removes the exit pressure, which is true because you can't leave, and introduces repetition, responsibility, and reality. And that's what marriage is about. Now, blame gets louder, sharper, and more frequent now because of it, right? Because now you have to be responsible. You got to grow up. For some people, that makes sense because they can't and they won't. It's repetitive because you're doing it every day with the same person, which is beautiful for some, and some people it's not. But let's start with the score-keeping system. Marriage turns into when you start keeping scores. The I did this and you didn't do that examples, right? I took out the trash all week. I always handle the bills. You know, things like that. You never help with the kids, right? Have you all heard that before? Some of you may have. Marriage is a place where you love, where love turns into a scoreboard. And that's sad because we're here, instead of making it work together, we're here, people that are married are here taking points instead. Like, who did what? Let me see how much times you did that. I'm going to count those times, and I'm going to remind you of it all the time. Not everyone. These are the ones that when you have immature people, like in dating, and you marry them, okay? Because you're going to know who they are while you're dating. So if you're not sure, don't marry. If you are sure, you know, you could take a chance. Everything's a risk in life, you know. You can take that chance. But this right here is going to prove to you what you need to see before you take the big steps. So here's the role-based blame on marriages. In dating, it's different. It's flexible roles. But in a marriage, it's assigned roles. And when those roles aren't met, blame comes. And these are example of blames. You're supposed to be the provider. Have you all heard that before? Hopefully not. But in arguments, people tend to say things that they shouldn't, or it just happens. You're angry. You're upset. I mean, this is why communication is important. You're supposed to hold the house down. Things like that. In reality, to me, most couples marriage couples, it's about 50-50. No one's really supposed to always provide. They should be the head of household, the 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 one that is put in the head of household. Right now, we believe that's men, but that doesn't mean a woman can't do it. I mean, what is the problem? We were taught these things that are superficial, because if you both are doing the 50-50, you tend to build. When you're expecting someone else to build and you're just sitting back, unless this person's a millionaire, billionaire, trillionaire, I'd get off my ass and work alongside of them, because that's how you get to become a millionaire. Not sitting back and watching someone bust their behind to become it. It's not fair. I don't care what the game was told years ago. That's changed now. And for those women that know, we know. Okay, we're gonna be the builders, not destroyers. Oh, go watch my show last week on men. Are you a builder or destroyer? Oh, it was good, guys. And the one before that was about the females. So go check those tapes out. I can't remember the titles at this point, but let's get back to the show, right? So as I was saying, when they said that you're supposed to hold the house down, I believe that that's a 50-50 thing, but not everyone believes that. And you have a right to your own beliefs. But the reality is that most couples never clearly define roles in marriages. They just assume them. And assumptions lead to disappointment. And disappointment leads to the blame. So this is when the emotional debt collector of marriage remembers everything. Okay, when I say emotional debt collector, that's when, debt collectors never forget you owe them, right? Well, just picture that as a marriage. Okay, remembers everything, because now you always are on the no. Okay, because you're pissed and it's emotional, so you're never going to forget it. And the blame comes here of, you always do this is just like last time, nothing's changed. And it's horrible. It becomes one of those arguments in marriage that don't start fresh. They come up with interest. So be very careful. Marriage arguments don't start fresh because of it. Like I was saying, it's always in your memory bank. It's emotional. So it's like a debt collector. That debt collector is never going to forget you owe them. And neither does someone, a partner in the relationship, or both, in a marriage especially. We're talking about that now. So it's not fresh. They come with interest, is what I'm saying, because it grows. It grows and grows and grows. And that's the worst part of it. But the truth is, what really grows is unresolved issues stack up. Blame becomes increased, not situational, and the comfort and disrespect, the comfortable disrespect is really harsh. Um, but the hard truth is very hard for a lot of people. In dating, people filter themselves, and in marriage, that filter can disappear. So, and it's because you've been with that person for so many years, you don't need to filter anything anymore. But you do, So the tone changes, patience drops, blame becomes sharper. Why? Because when you're familiar with things, you're likely to stay. Um, it's just what it is. When it's familiar to you, you're likely to stay, and a lot of people do. And that's where marriage is one of the differences with marriage and dating. And sometimes some people in dating, because they don't think that they can move forward and on with anyone else, especially if it's a long-term one. You're going to feel that, not you, but in general, you feel the familiar with everything in the relationship. And so then when you do that, you're like, well, I don't want to get used to somebody else right now. I'm just going to sit here in this relationship, because this is what I'm. Okay, let me see. Are you all hearing me out there? I'm not sure. Okay. All right. Because this is what you're familiar with. So being familiar with that, I'm going to stay here and be safe. Emotions get involved, and that's not good. People tend to go deep and say things that makes things worse because of the lack of filter. Yeah. And that's true. Thank you for that comment. And that is so true. Because of lack of filter, people tend to say things that they later regret, right or wrong. How many times have people in relationships, partnerships, because that's what we're talking about, have said stuff that they regret? I'm going to put my hands up. I've done that before, and we're human. A lot of people will deny it, and denial is not good. Start to acknowledge things that you've done and your mistakes so you can move forward, and by acknowledging it sets you free to understand the mistake, grow from it, and improve it. So I'm going to bring in the core differences between dating versus marriage. In dating, blame is controlled, conflict is minimized, and people protect the connection most times. In a marriage, blame is expressed freely because they love it. I mean, everyone gets to blame because now you're, as they consider, stuck in this, but it's not. You took a vow. You're not stuck unless you didn't want to take that vow, but those that feel that way, it's understandable. Blame is expressed freely in a marriage. Conflict is recurring. People defend themselves. Yeah. And the reason why is because you're okay, so this is not a date where I could say goodbye, so let me tell you how I feel. But the thing is, that feeling should have been said a long time ago. You don't store that in your memory and wait for hard times or something that you don't like that's happening in your marriage to start utilizing it as a weapon against the other partner. Um, the powerful real life transition scenario that daters have is you're amazing. So when I say powerful real life transition scenario, these are the things that dating people would say. When you first meet and everything's great, maybe within a year, some people it's longer than a year, you're amazing. Okay, remember those days? Now in a marriage, 3 years later, okay, you don't need to to, to say anything until 3 years later. Right now you're gonna say something. You don't do anything like you used to. The same two people, okay? Different expectations, different tolerance levels. Everything's changed now because this is two different expectations that should have been stated before, either before when they were dating and before they became serious. So there's a lot of dynamics here with the differences of dating right now and how amazing it is, and then when you marry 3 years later, you're nothing like you used to be. You don't treat me the way you did. You don't buy me the flowers anymore. Women would say, or guys go, you don't go. What's guys' main term, ladies? What? We don't sleep together anymore, right? We're not romantic, or things like that. So as we stated, it's the same two people that we're dating, right? Different expectations, different tolerance levels. That's what happened. Um, and the truth that no one wants to hear, let's keep it real, is dating hides flaws and marriage reveals patterns. So if you have married someone that you didn't see their flaws, the red flaws and the red flags, or you did and you said, I'm just going to allow that to pass over my head without that, but that's unconsciously you would think that. I don't think you would just say, oh, I'm just going to let that pass, right? So those flaws that you bypassed when you were dating, when you go into a marriage, now it's revealed. Okay, so those patterns are now revealed. Dating says I like you. Marriage says now let's see if I can live with all of you. Right or wrong? Let's make that. Think about that one. It's the truth. Some people they hide behind the mask. So you got to be careful who you marrying and who you're dating too, because some people, and not everyone wants to get married, so understandable. But those that are okay with it, dating a narcissist is a serious risk. Oh yeah, I think I have a few shows on that, but thank you for that point you made. Yeah, dating a narcissist is definitely a serious risk. They never think they're wrong. They're always right, and they're good at lying. They could lie for many, many years to come, and you would never know that that was that person once you figured it all out. But that's another show. I'll do another show like that late. Eventually, it'll probably be games people play. So go look for my games people play. I have different topics there. All right, getting back to this, but be careful of the narcissists. They're everywhere. They're mass manipulators, female and males. Okay, so let's get back to dating says, I like you. Marriage says, now let's see if I can live with all of you, which is exactly what happens. And when those patterns don't match the expectations in date after you married, blame steps in as a translator. Now the person's going to translate everything that they felt the whole time. Instead of being mature enough during the dating part, and instead of, I think you're amazing, blah, blah, blah. If you feel that way, then everything this person has done made you marry them, right? But if you didn't feel that way, why did you marry them? Because now you're coming up with all these patterns of the person's way of thinking, how they react to you, who they are to you now, but it didn't matter when you were dating, right? So let's finalize on dating versus marriage blame. All right. In dating, people walk on eggshells, right or wrong. Yeah. Because they want to, if they really like the guy or the girl, they're going to want to be with them. And they're like, okay, let me see what I could do to keep this. In marriage, people start throwing them. They start throwing the eggshells. And I've seen that in the courthouse. Boy, matrimonial part of the court is no joke. Matrimony is wow. But anyway, but whether you're dating or married, the rule doesn't change. It still takes two to tango. All right? So don't forget, dating or married, the rule doesn't change. It takes two to tango. So while you're blaming someone else, that person's blaming you. That's two to tango. It can't be just you. You got into it. It's like when you have children, you get involved. Now all of a sudden it's not working out. You both got involved. It takes two to tango. Love is a blindfold to who you're dating. Yeah, that's true. But if you see that, then you don't marry that person, because once you get to marriage, it's a little too late for you to get out so simply, so easy. And then some people do it on purpose because they plan on taking you to court to take you for what you have anyway. So be careful of that as well. Um, okay. Okay. So the difference here, with it takes two to tango, like I said, and the difference is in dating you can leave the dance floor, all right, but in marriage you either learn the rhythm or you keep stepping on each other forever. So that's a serious thing. That's why marriage is taken seriously. And I know a lot of people say, oh, well, that's why I don't get married, blah, blah, blah. Let's stop. Maybe you would never ask to be married and you never was, and it's okay. But for those that know the truth and you're really doing it because of that, good for you. We don't want to hear the excuses of those that don't know, want to marry because nobody's asked you to marry. No one cared about you that deep to marry you. That's different. Don't use that here. Marriage is important to those that believe in it, and those that don't, we don't really care if you don't. Where some people are just going to marry anyway. They want a one long-term relationship with one person because they are mature enough to do so. And those that don't and they just want to date, good for you. Kudos to you all. Hopefully you'll find someone that you just think of as special enough to stay with for the rest of your life. And so what we do here is you either learn the rhythm or you keep stepping on each other forever. And that's both in dating and marriage, to tell you the truth. But don't let it get into a marriage is what I'm saying. Take care of it while you're dating and you see all the patterns there. You don't wait to get married and then start labeling everything out on a list, to-do list, saying, well, this is what you need to do. You need to get better. You need to get your finances and blah, blah, blah. That's not how it's done. Now, let's see after dating. All right. The marriage blamed. Now, let's see. After dating, right? The marriage blame game works in a divorce. When you marry after dating and you've been feeling this way, the rhythm's not on, but it was when you were dating. This usually can lead to divorce afterwards because you didn't recognize it while you were dating. So this is very important that mature people get married and not immature ones that look as dating. You can make your marriage the same way as it was when you were dating, fulfilled with fun, romantic, always loving each other every day. Just because you got married doesn't mean that that stops. You're still in the dating phase. You can keep that phase as long as you both respect each other and understand each other. It can be beautiful, and work it through together. And also, not just working it through, but communication is really important. Not like when you're in a dating and you're not communicating, and then you're missing for a little while, and then you come back, oh, I didn't think we were aligned because nobody else wanted you out there, so now you're back. No, people don't need that kind of stuff. We're going to now talk about divorce stage blame, because that's really important. Like, you date, and some people marry after dating, and unfortunately a lot of people get divorced after that. So we're going to talk about divorce stage blame, when the tango turns into a tug of war. And I have seen that in the courtrooms a lot. Divorce isn't just the end of a relationship, it's the courtroom of blame, okay? Because that's where you take it. Let's be real. Instead of working it out, instead of communicating like grown-up adults, and no, I will always have a job, because there'll always be negative energy, criminals, and all kinds of things that you're going to need to come to the court for. So I will always have the job. But I'm just speaking as a professional. Don't bring your garbage, your relationships into the courts. You shouldn't be coming to the courts unless you have committed a crime, which I say you shouldn't either. But your privacy, your family life, that belongs outside the courtroom. If you're adults, I know it can get really toxic sometimes once the hate starts getting in there. But and a lot of people hate each other. That's what the real thing is, after they've loved each other so long, or for the moment. And that's where it becomes toxic, and you bring it to the courtroom. So that's why I said divorce isn't just the end of a relationship, it's the courtroom of blame, whether you step into an actual courtroom or not. And a lot of people do. All right. We're going to start with this part of one. Divorce state blame patterns. Okay, so I'm going to now give you divorce blaming. During divorce, people always are not happy because of the divorce. Of course, now you all don't like each other too much. Things are going on. You may have children, you may not. People always get burned, male or female. Exactly. And people always get burned. Like you just said, thank you for that. During divorce, it's easy to argue a lot. People don't just argue about what happened, they rewrite what the relationship was. And that's what's sad. They rewrite it in the courtrooms. We see it, we hear it all the time, and it's sad sometimes, and sad for us to watch you. But things like, you weren't there for me, I was unhappy the entire time. Now, you probably never said that, but now you're saying it and you're airing it out in the courtroom. You never talked to me, so I went to find it somewhere else. Those type of things. Excuses after excuses. It's things like that that makes it hard, because there's always going to be an excuse when you could have talked it out. You don't go make excuse so you could go around sleeping with other people. You say, listen, I don't think this is working, what we could try. But if you don't think you can try, be mature enough adult to say it's not working. Don't blame the other person, blame yourself. It's really easier that way, because then you don't have this toxic relationship, or dynamic. So like I said, when people do these things, you never told to me, so I went to find it somewhere else. Things like that. I wasn't happy the whole time. Why you stayed there then? If you weren't happy, I mean, people will try to make it work, but now you're coming out and airing all this mess in the courthouse. And if it's not in the courthouse, to the other partner, like he knew or she knew. No, they didn't know. If they had known and you was mature enough to tell them, maybe you could have worked it together amicably, or get the divorce annulment or whatever. But the truth is, if it was all that bad, it wouldn't have lasted that long. If it lasted at least a year, it couldn't have been that long, that bad. After a year, it really couldn't have been that bad. And then unless you didn't know it, you've been sidetracked. Like, that's where the narcissists come in. They play the good game, and you're not even knowing this person like that because you know a different person. Those are narcissists. Blame yourself so you can forgive yourself. Oh my God, that is so great. Blame yourself so you can forgive yourself. And that's what I meant. Thank you for that. I really appreciate it because that's what I wanted to go with that. Forgiveness is a big part of maturity, I believe. So when you are forgiving, the maturity levels is going to say something about you. When you act like a little child and you play the games and you have children or not have children, oh, it's horrible. Other people see this. The children see this. They start acting like little children when they're supposed to grow up. They become adults. They start doing the same thing the parent has done. It's disgusting. I've seen it everywhere in personal lives, in the courthouse, outside their work experiences, is everywhere. In people's personal lives, co-workers, friends. I mean, it sucks, but it's reality. So we got to really watch that. And the truth is, if it wouldn't have lasted that long, where all of a sudden the relationship that had vacations, selfies, and matching pajamas become toxic from day one. That makes sense. This is what they're saying when they come into the courtrooms. Oh, from day one they were like, that's a lie. You wouldn't have been there that long. Remember the vacations, remember the selfies, remember the matching pajamas, remember the matching outfits or whatever it is you did. Yeah, those things. Now, the villain versus the victim narrative. And there's always going to be a victim, right? So divorce simplifies a complex relationship in two roles, and that is the villain and the victim. All right? One is a villain and one is the victim. Who do you think it's going to be? Everybody wants to play the victim, but one is the villain, and then vice versa. But reality, most relationships end due to patterns, like I said, and not one person. That's why it takes two to tango. It is not just one person in this, but psychologically, people need clarity, so they assign blame. And the truth bomb here is, it's easier to heal when you're the victim. So don't play the victim, but we know that it's easier to heal, and it's harder to grow when you ignore your part. So when you ignore your part, it's harder to grow. But when you're the victim, it's easy to heal. So this is why people always use the victim part. Yeah, it's going to help you in your healing. But are you sure you were the victim, though? Or was that person victimized by you? It takes two to tango. Not just one person may be victimized here. It could be both, for all you know. And the villain could be yourself, for all you know. But not a lot of people will say they're the villain in the court. They're not going to admit that they're the villain. I know that. Everything gets brought up when we use the scoreboard in divorce as well. It becomes explosive. The finances, parenting, loyalty, effort, all the unresolved marriage issues, marital issues, whatever way you want to say it, are now evidence. That's right, evidence in the courtroom for sure, or evidence in your life, evidence in your now to be divorced. Divorce is like when old arguments come back like surprise witnesses. You in the courtroom and all of a sudden they say, well, we have this surprise witness, and we call them in. That's what divorce is like, when old arguments come back. So, and it's not funny because we can laugh about it now because I'm just trying to make it fun, but it's not fun when you see it. And I don't know how the people feel before us in the courtroom. And I say us because I'm not the only one that works there, but I know I feel sad for them. I don't know how they feel, but I wouldn't want my relationship, my marriage, or divorce to be public image, right? So this is exactly what it becomes, though, the public image war. Now it's not just internal, it's external. You got your friends, your family, and social media now, right? Years ago, they didn't have social media, not when I was a child. But now they have that too. So everybody hears one side first. I'm sure that's the victim. And that person controls the narrative, right? They control it early and shapes the perception in your mind that that is what happened when it probably wasn't. So now everybody's going to believe that, right? But the truth is reputation becomes part of the blame game too, because if you gonna make your reputation looks better than the other person due to your hurt and pain, whether you caused it or not, you are now not only blaming, but you're building that reputation so that they can be on your side, and you can continue to blame that person for the rest of your life till your kids get old and gray. They're gonna believe you're the one to blame. I mean, I could tell you all these stories I've seen. Yeah, I mean, unless the children grow to be mentally capacitated to understand the difference, they will stay traumatized even as adults and probably do it and continue it into their marriages, and which will probably lead to divorce. So it's very serious that we take accountability and be more mature in things that we do. Um, we're going to move on to the legal blame strategy, because this is important in the divorce. When lawyers get involved, blame can become tactical, and I've said that, not just emotional but strategic. Now the marriage is in divorce, and now we're getting strategic. Custody positioning, financial leverage, documentation of behavior. You're getting it all, okay? Because now it's serious to you. Blame isn't just about feelings, it's about outcomes. Excuse me. I was divorced once, so I know what that's like. But unlike these scenarios, I choose not to go there and bring my stuff to the court. I don't believe I was like a teenager when I married my first marriage, so I didn't bring anything, and it wasn't foolishness. It's just that I have children, and I'm like, wait, there's no need for me to do this type of stuff. I still was with this person, have children with him, and I respect my children, and I'm not going to hurt their father no matter how much we went through with hurt and pain. I'm too grown, too mature for this. So I didn't do the stuff that I see people do. And, everybody's different. But I say it has paid off for me not to have done the toxic things I've seen people do just to get child support instead of amicably working it out, just to get alimony without talking to someone like they didn't even know you were going for it. Things like that. You just get that paper in the mail, that court order, and bam. I choose not to do so. Most mature women, I hope for men too, they won't do it. And it's not about money, because when you're doing it yourself and you can make it, you just leave it to God to take judgment on that person. That person's got to live through that, not you. Why are you living through it? Because your children are going to pay for it at the end. So what I do is I said, if this person does not take care of what he needs to, then it's not my responsibility. Then his children will suffer. There's no reason for me to go to court. What are they going to do? Make it better or get you more money in your pockets for you? And so this is what I've been seeing, and that's exactly. Now there are some people that they cannot get the money, and I understand that, and that's sad. But there are a lot of people that amicably, you could have asked the partner, you could have spoken to them, but because of your hurt, pain, jealousy, envy, and all of that above, you didn't. You chose to get back at the person. That's sad. That's something that's so immature. I was a teenager, and I still knew to be mature back then. You wouldn't imagine how many immature adults are out here, people. It is sad. And what you can do is just a show like this, or talk to the person, because people need help mentally, and I do this platform just for that. Not that I'm a psychologist, I am not, but just based on experience and my own too, I like to share that with other people so that they can see that there's a better way in things, especially through loving yourself first. Don't get into a relationship if you can't do that. It's real simple. It might not be for a lot of people, but if the longer it takes to love yourself, take as much time as you need, because you shouldn't be out there and dating other people if you can't love yourself. You can't love somebody else. That's all. I'm going to leave it there on that one and move forward with what I was talking about. Getting back is a recipe for karma to do work, and that's true. I'll leave that there, but karma is going to work on a lot of people. Um, but when you do these type of things and you're setting up everything, to protect yourself, understandable. We're talking about people that use the custody positions, financial leverage, and all of this stuff, not just for gain, but also for revenge. Blame isn't just about feelings, it's about outcomes. So we're going to go through the male and versus female divorce blame styles right now, because we need to see the dynamics of how males and how females, their styles of blaming each other are. So we're going to start with the men during the divorce. Okay, the delayed accountability. Many men process emotional loss later. They're not quick in emotions like females. During the divorce, men usually are defensive, frustrated, focused on fairness, which is true. He's the one that most likely going to pay, especially if he had children. But it could be vice versa, but this is what I see in the court. Now, for men after the divorce, the reflection kicks in. Men start understanding the relationship about 6 months after it's over. Then it's too late. They get the logic and the loss focus. This is how they focus afterwards. Men often shift toward, this is what happens, and it's sad, financial loss, loss with time with their children, their assets, and it can go on and on. So the blame sounds like to them, she took everything, this isn't fair, blah, blah, blah. And we know it's not fair, but why do we allow these people to do this? Truth is, men often frame divorce in terms of loss of structure and control. And that's true, because men are known for structure and having control, because they're the masculine part of them. That's what their nature is. So when you feel like everything was taken from you, you feel out of control, your structure is done, now you're waking up to see what this relationship was really about. And with men, the silent repetition hits. Men are likely to publicly often themselves emotionally. They're often used to, sometimes their side goes unheard when they start talking about what happened to them. Their silence gets interpreted as guilt. So they, because they're feeling it already, and they're not good at conversing their feelings and emotion like women. So men are likely to publicly be so emotional of themselves that their side goes unheard. A lot of people don't listen to their side of the story. They're listening to the female side because, we prefer, well, she had your child and blah, blah, blah. We could go on forever, but it's not true. It takes two to tango, and that's why this title is that. Their silence usually gets interpreted as guilt, and I've seen that outside the courtroom and in the courtroom. So now we're going to go with women during divorce. Oh, wow. What did you say? Billionaires got married. His wife later filed for irreconcilable differences. Okay. The husband's money was in trust and he got his million because nothing was in her name. Yeah. Prenups, trusts, do that, folks, whether female or male. Unfortunately, if you can trust someone, that's a great thing. But nowadays, it's really hard. Me personally, I came in with what I got. I'm going out with what I made. If I got divorced, I'm not touching anyone's stuff like this. I was married before and didn't do it because I am my own made woman. I'm not going to want any entanglements, ties to my past whatsoever. The only ties I have is my children, and that's where it ends. Finished. I don't have time for that. That's why women, you have to build your own and have your own. And then you won't need to do all of that. And some women, the vengeance or what, oh, well, I did this and I've heard women say, well, I didn't stand by that side for another woman. Who cares? If the other woman, karma is going to hit. Oh, you think I care about that? What about you? Are you going to build yourself enough so that you don't have to worry about that? That's where it's going to count, ladies. And guys, the same for you. All right. If you're going to be being sure of what you're marrying into, there's a lot of narcissists out there, liars, manipulators, and you won't even know what hit you. So make sure you take care of your pockets, make those trusts available, and let it state what you want and what you don't want. It's even better than a prenup. But I would have a prenup too, considering there's so many people out here, both sides, male and females. I'm not picking one side. But I will tell you, I know the ratio on who's doing the most, but I'm not going to share that. It's sad, but I'm not going to share it. Anyway, women doing divorce, their emotional narrative is always, um, they always process emotion, emotionally earlier than men. You know, it's just like when we're children, we're more mature than the men are. In the first place, we grow faster, we walk before they do, uh, et cetera, et cetera. But by divorce time, their story is already formed. They already got it ready. I've seen in the courtroom, their support system is already activated. They're ready to take them and they're ready to go. Folks, she left with the full presentation. That's what happens in the court. The pattern-based argument is always there, that same one. Okay, women tend to frame divorce as repeated behaviors, emotional neglect, long-term dissatisfaction, yet they stayed there, they had children. Sorry, ladies, but it's true. For example, with the narratives, I've always been telling you for years, that's one, whatever you tell them or whatever they say to you, nothing ever changed. The same scenario over and over, that they've been saying it for years and nothing ever changed. Why are you there? Why did you commit with having children? Why did you put children in this? I mean, if you knew it was happening for years, we shouldn't go that far. We know to get out, you don't have children then, because that's going to keep it permanent forever. Even if you break up, you're going 21 years until 21 and sometimes longer. All right, until the child is 21 or longer, even if it's your whole life stuck with this person that you're talking about. And I say stuck, quote and unquote, because that's how you talk in the courthouse, like you were stuck there. Why are you having children with them then? And if you didn't know, you didn't know. But now to come up with all of this, instead of taking accountability, you're still blaming. All right, and that's where it comes. Now, with the support system for women, it amplifies. Women are likely to share details with friends and family, build emotional backing. They also do social media as well, their little comments, which can reinforce their perspective and intensify the blame. So, of course, they're going to become the victim. But when we take a reality check on everything, men always say this came out of nowhere when they're getting a divorce, because they're oblivious to seeing what this person has done, what the women have done, what their wife has done. And women are usually, I've been through this for years, like I just said, but yet you had children with them. So we keep pushing blame on each other. But again, I'm going to say it one more time. It takes two to tango, right? Don't believe they're telling the truth. And in their own timelines, they are. Okay, both of them believe it, that they're telling the truth, but in their timelines, they are. They both are, actually. All right, because they're telling the truth about each other and what they've seen, the patterns that they created mentally, and most of it might be true and some may be lies, because I've seen a lot of lies going on. Where you have to have those receipts, ladies and gentlemen, when you come into court with the lies, because it's not going to work in your favor. But either way, when I say receipts, I'm not just talking about grocery, I'm talking about evidence. I say receipts. But both believe they're telling the truth, and in their own timelines, they really are. So the final truth here, I believe, is divorce doesn't create blame. It exposes how long blame has been building up. You know what I mean? And people actually stay that long in there. And some people do it for financial, economic reasons. Some people do it for love. Who knows? But by the time people separate, they're not arguing about one moment. They're arguing about years of moments that were never resolved. Had they been resolved through straight up communication with each other, like you're supposed to do once you're married, okay? We're not talking about dating anymore. We're talking about marriage before this comes, divorce. But, you can't, what's that saying our grandparents said? You can't make a horse drink water? I don't know, because I, I don't remember, but I remember my grandma or my mom saying something like that. You can't draw them to water. But either way, in conclusion, I keep saying this over and over again. It takes two to tango, but when divorce hits, nobody wants to admit they were offbeat, right? One will say you broke this, the other says you abandoned this, and somewhere in the middle of the truth, two people who stopped hearing each other a long time ago is what happened. So, yeah, they were two people who stopped hearing, listening, and talking to each other a long time ago. So whether you're dating, married, or divorced, the question stays the same, okay, people? Are you trying to win the argument, or are you trying to understand the dance? Now, hopefully you're trying to understand the dance. Hopefully you're doing something about your marriages, or when you're dating, um, that it doesn't lead to divorce if you do get married. And so that's real talk. And so I wanted to come to you with this week because a lot of things start with dating, gets to marriage, and ultimately, unfortunately, some in divorce. And then people start looking at marriage as a bad thing, and it's not. It's just how um, you speak up in your marriage, and you speak about it, not yell about it. Sit down and have a talk. Tell that person exactly what it is. You could start with dating, start watching the person, talking to them. You could start your communication as friends before you even date. I think it's important to be friends, first. And then if you choose to date, you date, and then you see that person characteristics and who they are from there. And but that's just me. That doesn't mean everyone else has to do it. But usually it'll lead to marriage after, if that's what you want with that person, or not, because then you'll know who they are because you've taken the time out to check them out, right? So thank you for listening today on this beautiful Saturday. It's a balmy 55 degrees here in the mountains. And what? I mean, wait, tell you who you're marrying. Yeah, a prenup. I'm going to read the last comment. A prenup will tell you who you're marrying. Exactly. Sometimes it will disrespect other people that aren't there for the money, but don't be fooled. It's basically a protection. And it might be sad at first when someone hears about that, but you know what? In the long run, it helps you out anyway. And if you don't want to do a prenup because you don't want to disrespect that person before marriage because you really truly care about them, but you want to protect yourself, go for the trust. But I'm not a lawyer, so it's just not even advice because I can't give advice, but I'm just going to give it to you. Um, I don't know how to put that consultation of things that you should do ahead of time. All right? Not advice, okay? And so, with that being said, please like, share, and subscribe. Come back next Saturday. It is going to be a topic of games people play. And come see what that's about. That's going to be a good one, too. I tried to make this as much fun instead of so serious. I'll try with the next one as well. But sometimes things are serious and there's nothing we can do about it. But I thank you for joining me today, bringing you the truth and nothing but the truth on Know Your Truth Real Talk with me, your host of the most, Judge Desire for Knowledge, is now adjourned, and I will see you all next week, Saturday, God willing. Have a great week, a great weekend, and I will see you then. Go check out my I'm out and about in City Island, New York City last week, and my grilling. I have done a lot of grilling. It's called Grilling with Judge Desire for Knowledge. I'm backed up in tapes because I grill a lot, and I'm about to take care of something now. And great show. Thank you. And so, oh, this is my longest show. Okay, wait. I hope you all watch it to the end, though, because I know people don't like watching so long. But you know what? Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next week, Saturday, here on Know Your Truth Real Talk. Ciao. Wait, and before I go, I just wanted to say thank you, IAAH Radio Plus. Go check them out with the best DJs and music and different genres from all over the world listens to that station. Europe, everywhere. Go check them out, all right? And I'll